let's have a discussion about roles in our relationships.
I've got a clear plan for you, my lady.
Woman in the kitchen, man doing the work.
Out in the workplace.
There's a lot of different ways we can paint our relationships at this point, so let's discuss them and the seasons which we live through.
Mama says namaste. Mama says namaste.
Making a family can be easy and fun.
Oh, yeah, but raising a family can be a whole different story.
From spouses to kids to the crazy daily grind, life often directs us away from connection and more into reactive chaos.
If you're tired of that cycle and are seeking something beyond the picket fence blues, this is the show for you.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Nathan.
And we're here to take you from chaos to clarity by bringing awareness and intention into your home, not waiting for one day, and highlighting how
the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us.
Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama Says Namaste.
So we've kind of been building on these relationships in our home, and we talked 2 weeks ago about cultivating trust, and especially with our children, but of course also how we do this with our partners. And then last week we talked about fierce conversations and really interrogating reality for what is, and then looking from there what we are personally responsible for and how we can do our part to show up to create what we want to create.
And this is, family specific. This is something that each relationship kind of hones out as you're dating. You kind of figure out, all right, how does this person think and how will we fit into a life together?
And I will be honest that our relationship and our roles are not at all what I would have ever imagined they have been.
Oh, I've been planning this since the beginning.
You've been plotting it all out. When we first got married, I very much anticipated that we would have pretty traditional roles.
So did I.
Yeah, that I would be a stay-at-home mom, and I would do all the cooking and cleaning, and Nathan would go and do traditional work, clock in, do a 9 to 5, and come home, and we'd do the soccer classes, have our kids in soccer and extracurricular activities, and
for the most part, we started out down that route. I got a job at a bank. Could wear a suit and tie and look very uppity and professional. You could point at your new scrawny little husband and how he's doing quite well. And you were going to school. We didn't have any children, so we were working to pay through your school and pay for our new life together, which was a new experience.
And because of that, and because we were building up a nest egg, I was working. And as I was working, I started to find kind of my flow with what things I was passionate about with working. And so then as kids came into the picture, I found that some of my release as a mom was in blogging and sharing some of my story. And so I still continued to work. And at some point, we kind of recognized the reality in two ways. Number one, I needed to bring in some extra income, or
we enjoyed that extra income.
We enjoyed the extra income. Yeah, I'll say that. For what we were creating for our future, we desired to have that. And so part of it was desiring to still bring in that income. And also part of it was me recognizing I do kind of appreciate having a side outside of the home. And it took me a little while to even grapple with that and to not get mad at myself or think I was a failure at home because I desired to still do things in the work arena.
Yeah. Well, I knew, I kind of got a hunch because, you usually lean towards your passions and make excuses for the things that you want to push to the side. And so I'd come home starving to death as I usually do. I got a huge plan for dinner. We're going to make this elaborate meal. It's going to take about 2.5, 3 hours. Cool. You got any prep time or anything like that? I haven't even begun to start. I'm still in the middle of work. I got another hour and a half to knock out. You think you could start chopping for me, babe? Huh? And I'm hangry, tired. And so, those were things that we had to figure out. And so, but that's the beauty of and the importance of relationships is those things that seem to grind and hurt are your lessons. Those are the things you got to learn to work through with each other.
Some of it was recognizing that, part of our deal was my issue with time management and being bad about not keeping track of my time and getting lost in one more email.
I call it care management because I'm never late. I'm always early.
Because you care.
Because I care about time.
And I will say that I care about the situation, and then, my actions didn't reflect it. So in our lives, we've had some times where I have been more focused with the kids. We have had times where there have been a season of hustle where we're looking at reevaluating our whole life. And so
we got babysitters.
We had a babysitter that came in and was there for like 2 or 3 days out of the week, where she would come in, and we both were working like crazy. And we had times where, I relied on a food service because at that point we were making a lot of money. We were working on the nest egg, and we were doing the things that helped us to do that. And so I remember there being a time where we did experience that element of, I've got a babysitter who comes regularly. We have a house cleaner. I have a food plan that I get, and I have all of these things to support the lifestyle that we were doing at that time. And we ended up coming to another reality of that season's over. We want to let that season go. We want to create something new. And we did the RVing world, and it flip-flopped everything, including who was the primary breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, Nathan, who was the primary breadwinner, who was bringing in the majority of the income.
Nice ego income.
Exactly. You walked away from that.
Yeah.
And you became, a
bread maker.
A bread maker, literally, yeah. He made bread versus making the figurative bread of finances. And it shifted our family, it shifted our roles. And all of a sudden, Nathan was more hands-on with the kids. And if you have an issue, you go to daddy first, not mommy, because mommy's back in the back working. And you were doing all of the cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, doing a lot of the cleaning.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the laundry.
And the laundry. So much of it. And so many of our roles reversed. And I think the key and what we want to talk about is, because of the trust that we have built in each other, because of the fierce conversations that we're willing to have, because of us setting a family vision of this is what we want to create and cultivate in our home.
And I would probably also argue your perspective of yes and.
Looking for ways to make
everything work, rather than this huge, dichotomous, well, I do this, so we have to live this way, or you do this, so we have to live that way. How can we blend those so that we can live happily?
Right. I mean, if you think about, there are all these references to how people come together in times of chaos, where all of a sudden you have, if there's a common enemy of whatever, there's the disaster that has gone on. I mean, we see this in the, we've got so much crisis and violence that's going on right now. And these innocent lives, these civilians that are literally running for their lives, they're not standing and going, well, my job isn't to cook. I don't cook. That's your place. That isn't even a part of their comprehension. They're thinking, how can we move forward? And so oftentimes in those times of crisis, what you get is the person says, well, I can do this. Well, I can do this. I'll do this. Mm-hmm. And they can take it and go. And that's how we work together. And that's how we can make something happen. So in our family, when we say there's a disconnect, something isn't working here, it's not a, well, that's your job. No, it's what can we do? Who's willing to step up? Who can do this for the family?
Right.
The laundry is an interesting one, because laundry was never designated as a your role or a my role, but it was very much my role for all the cloth diapering years.
Well, there were things I think that I ended up destroying, because I'm more of a haphazard, who cares what's in there, it all get washed.
Right.
And you're separating.
Yeah, we had a few pink loads and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I did laundry for a long time. And since we have been on the road, the reality is going back and forth to drop off laundry at the washing machine, take care of it, especially if we have to do a laundromat or something like that. It is oftentimes way easier for you to do it, Nathan.
Yeah.
And so you've done it.
I do it.
And my gosh, you've done laundry for such a long time.
I haven't even made anything pink. I don't understand what happened. What changed? Maybe it's just little kids' clothes.
Well, it's because all of our clothes are brown and green. And,
there you go.
I mean, we don't have very many red things, I think, in our laundry anymore. Anyway, we've washed it all out at this point. But anyway, I mean, that's a deal where, I mean, laundry is, in our household, laundry is something that needs to be done, period. So every week it's, who can do it. Typically it's Nathan and you do it. But if there's ever a time where I've got the opportunity to and you're running around, then I do it.
Yeah. It's and I don't ever feel any guilt or shame about any of that. And I think that's when you're switching roles and trying to figure out who's going to do what and how. I mean, it's really, actually, it's more advantageous because I've had to work hard and work late and work more than I want to. So I have complete empathy for what you're trying to work through, and I understand how tough it is. You have had to run a household and work and have kids. And so you know how difficult and how things can get away. And so as long as we're both keeping that equilibrium of, I'm holding up 70, 80% of it. Let's keep on, we can help each other with the other 20 to 30. But, I'm holding and supporting that up. I mean, that's a nice balance that helps, but it gives you room for and margin for, look, I'm at, like you were saying, Brene Brown, I think last week.
Yeah, 70%.
Yeah, I'm at 70% or 20%, or I've had a really hard day. And so the more you communicate where you're at emotionally, the more people can be prepared. But if you allow people to get that information by stepping on your emotional landmines that you're dropping around, well, you're creating an environment that's, it's pretty aggressive and military.
Let me also, I want to just have space in this episode for you to speak as a male to what you believe is your weight, your responsibility in the home.
Oh. Honestly, I think that my weight and responsibility is to create as much of an environment to enjoy one another as possible. I think that's ultimately when I would listen to people that were retiring in the banking world or were moving because life was changing when I was selling real estate. I realized that a lot of people build up this big mountain of stuff and create this big important life so that they can try to relax and be with their family at the end of it. And it just, for me, it was easy to kind of think of, well, what if we relaxed and enjoyed our family throughout the process of it? Is that a possibility? And doing this gave me freedom to explore that and see if that was even possible. Because I think in the male psyche, it's really easy to fall into, well, I'm kind of a tool that makes money. And it's easy for me to do that. I've got some other, things that I don't really pay attention to that I consider hobbies in my life. And most of my friends watch football and play video games, so I do that to connect. But my true passion is, covered over here in this little corner. One of the things I like to ask men when they're trying to get to know me is I ask them what they like to do for fun. I like to ask most adults that because most adults don't think about doing a whole lot for fun other than going on vacation. They don't think about it as being a daily activity for themselves. But that has been probably one of the biggest impacts of switching those roles. It's given me the freedom to explore different sides of myself. And I also, I've never felt lesser than or like I have to prove myself. I've had a lot of other men come up and ask me, do you ever miss it? And I said, heavens no. I would much rather try to move my school bus of cats here than the maniac that's out there in the business world. Because, that's ultimately you get paid to do that stuff. I don't get paid to do what I do, and I've woken up every single morning excited to do it and looking forward to the day. I've never been like, oh, man, I got to deal with the kids today. I wish I could be out in the field and real estate and, not have to talk to these little minions. Well, the truth is you're talking to minions everywhere you go. There's other people that are more mature or less mature than you out there, and you're trying to convince them of the world, of the reality that you see. That's all I get to do every day. But it's with people that truly love and appreciate me, I think.
Because you've taken the time to invest in those relationships.
Yeah.
And show up. And that's something that we talk about this with our kids, and it is the same thing for us. If one person is up cleaning, and everybody else is sitting around waiting for that person to finish so that we can go do something fun, there's something wrong with this picture.
Yeah.
And so we're always working to cultivate the environment where we can have those fun times and have the down times. And so, you know, when the house needs to be cleaned, we can all sit around and wait for one person to do it and then potentially run out of time to do what it is we want to do fun, or we can all just pitch in and help.
Right.
And so we look at that. As much as we may say, you know, hey, Clara, you're on dishes today, and Ellie, you're doing floors today, they've learned real quickly that they never, if we ask them to do something, they don't go, oh, that's not my job.
Yeah.
No, it's part of living in this household. It's part of being in this family. And for every male that thinks that domestic work in your house is not your job, remember that if you were a bachelor, every single bit of it would be your job.
Well, I'll just give you this perspective. You know, my father he never did that, but he was married for 37 years, and they had some nice trends and, you know, some nice comforts. And like that, out of the blue, he was divorced and living on his own and having to deal with a totally new reality. And part of that is because of some deposits that he did not make and some things that he ignored. And so he's living out some of what should be his best years. He's already given a tremendous hunk of his life to a company that gave him retirement, but that retirement he's enjoying in a way that he probably wasn't planning. And he's doing his own dishes, and he's doing his own laundry, and he's doing it all alone. And that's not something that I think any man really wants. But there's 50% of us out there that if we don't learn how to work with other people, that's your life.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, we throw out the window this is a woman's role, this is a man's role.
This is we are moving.
This is how we as humans are moving forward and supporting each other.
And we're transparent and talk to our girls about our financial desires and goals and what we need to achieve them. So, we've been talking about this winter. Well, it would be nice if I was working and making some extra cash to bring that in. It would be nice if our house was rented. It'd be nice if we had a place to stay that didn't cost us much money. And so we've been figuring out together how to blend this life together where it's not I have to go so that we can have. Mm-mm. It's I want to go.
It's what do we choose as a family.
So that we can be. And that's a very different perspective and one that, I didn't really fully grasp until I got myself completely out of a work environment and completely in a family environment and just saw how once I was walking around and basically we were sharing our life with everybody that we're around. We live in these tiny little campground neighborhoods, and so people interrogate me all the time, and I've never felt like I wish that I had been a banker. If anything, I see all these bankers that can barely walk around wishing that they had been a dad.
Yeah.
And that's the hard truth. I get more slaps on the back of I wish I had been creative enough to do that in my life. Holy smacks. I wish that I had invested in my family to that degree, because now I get a call once a month.
And let me also stress in here that we recognize there are seasons, and sometimes seasons require hustle. Sometimes seasons mean somebody is down and not at their best self. They're recovering from a health issue, or we've got a season of somebody who's lost a job. We've got a season of somebody needing to really hustle and make money. There are a lot of different things that we may have as seasons in our lives that are finite. And during that time, we can tear each other down or we could build each other up. I am so grateful that when we switched and we went into you working with the kids and doing it, I really needed to stay focused, and I was very torn. It was hard for me to stay focused when I wanted to be out here working, playing with the family, exploring new sites, and I needed to get work done. And you honored and respected and supported what I was doing for the family by doing two things. Number one, picking up the slack. Helping with keeping the house clean, keeping the kids focused on other things, making food, doing all of the things to support me in it. And number two, you did not ever demonize me to the children. Well,
Never.
She can't do it. She's too busy for you now.
Never.
How does that help the relationship? So you want to look for how are you fostering support for each other?
If anything, it's very important to praise. I would make it a point to thank you so much for giving yourself for all of us to enjoy. the life that we live, because I know you're giving yourself away during your work time to be away from us so that we can have the life that we live. And if your kids don't know that, if you're sending them the message of, if I'm telling, oh no, to make myself feel better about my life, she's leaving us and she'll come back when she's ready.
She's too busy for us or something like that.
Those are very sneaky, manipulative, and dangerous games to play. That will, and truthfulness, your kids see the reality of a situation, and when they become adults, your cream will rise.
Right.
And so just realize that the more you're investing in your children, the more of that truth will come to the top for them.
And the more you show as a support for the others in the family who are working to show up for the family and supporting them in the ways that they do, the better your whole family will thrive, versus it becoming an us against them scenario, or talking behind each other's backs about what somebody is doing or not doing. And also just recognizing, where does the resentment come from? I know that for me, I remember coming out and getting pissed at you for sitting around playing a ukulele, and I'd get irritated with you.
Well, just recently you were irritated that the girls weren't, that they were just laying on the ground wrestling and screwing around, not doing anything. And I said, well, Ashley, both of them worked this morning and got up at 7:00 and did rows and con by 1% to 2%. We went for a 5-mile walk. We've done this, and this.
Yeah.
They're permitted to just roll around on the ground.
Right.
But it just reminds us, you're in the world of doing all,
Right. And I had to check myself to recognize that my frustration with Nathan chilling or the kids playing around had more to do with my resentment that I was not affording myself that same opportunity. And I wasn't giving that same opportunity for myself to recharge and recover. I was just work. And as I was doing that and not allowing for the rest, I was building up more anger and resentment.
Yep.
And I had to check myself in that, because what do I want? Do I want to bring that in there? Do I want to make everybody such a workhorse that everybody has their head down and not looking at each other and not connecting?
Here comes Miss Hannigan.
I know. There's the whole opposite of the family I'm wanting to cultivate. And so we value what each other brings, and we thank each other for what it is. And that's me having to, take a big gulp of humble pie and say, thanks, Nathan, for reminding me to just chill out for a minute. I'm going to sit down and just listen to you play the ukulele and watch our crazy kids
And sometimes
wrestle.
I can sit and chill way too long, and I need to be encouraged to get up off my butt and get some things done quickly.
Get that round to it covered.
Yeah, get that round to it covered up. And that's, I think that the more you can approach each other with, honesty and caring, the more it becomes less of an attack on your personal, what you've created as yourself, but just as a funny reminder of, hey, we're falling back into the same things that we've talked about. We don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy being, just laying around and not getting anything done. You don't enjoy not taking breaks, but that's something that we fall into naturally. And so the more you can just laugh at yourself and say, you're right. I'll try to do a better job of that. Thanks for making me aware of that. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Instead of, you always point out my problems to me, you nasty devil.
Yeah. So our challenge is, what do you want your relationship to be? What do you want your home life to be? Are you showing up in a way that's going to work? Are you doing your part? Are you looking around and seeing what in our home is something I can give, I can contribute, I can show up and serve and love these people in my house that I'm choosing to spend my life with? What can I do? Sometimes it's admitting I'm struggling right now. That's okay. Sometimes we have our down days. We have our down times where we're battling our own things. We need to focus on our health and well-being or anything else. That's okay.
Sometimes.
If you communicate it.
Yeah.
And it's finite. And you recognize that you're ready to step up. And when you need those breaks and you take a lot of percentage, then how can you give that back? What can you do? What could be something you could do that's above and beyond that shows your willingness to make the effort when you can? I have 100% grace for Nathan to take because of how much he gives. And so when you come to me and you say, hey, I really need a massage tonight, or I'm not doing laundry today. It's just not, it's too much. I say,
that
okay.
might be a foreign concept to some relationship. Like, I'm just thinking about that. Like, I will ask you to do things, like give me a massage or do a chore for me.
And I'm so grateful you do, because I unfortunately don't always notice. I can be so busy running around that I'm not aware of what somebody else's needs may be.
And the reason that I do that is I would build resentment because I felt like you weren't watching or paying attention to me, so that I would, you can be aware. And I realized that it's not, it's not a personal attack against me. You still love me. You just have a different way of showing that love.
Right.
And so if I don't communicate, hey, I need some help here, then you're not going to see it, and I shouldn't get mad at you for that, because that's all a story I've written in my head.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why I listen so well is because I feel so supported and loved by you. I mean, it's one of those, we can go round and round with the chicken and the egg. So let's not get into, well, I am not feeling supported by them, so I'm not going to start.
My suggestion is focus on giving.
Yeah, focus on giving. Focus on what you are doing to give. And the more you give, the less those takes are. And then we start looking at, oh, well, of course I'll do this for you. I'm happy to contribute because we're part of a team. We're working together. I feel supported in this, so I'm willing to step up and shine for you. And so look for those ways in your home right now. Go back to the last few episodes we've had, and building trust with those you love, and in having fierce conversations, interrogating the reality of what is, and looking for what can you do right now? How can you take action to enrich your relationships and to move forward together? What are you willing to do, and how are you willing to show up in the family? How amazing if what we end up out of this is that instead of, 5 people that balk and complain about the dishes and get so irritable about the dishes, we have 5 people all willing to do their own dish and whatever other dishes are in the sink. And all of a sudden, after meals, we're like, all right, well, what do you want to do? Versus 2 hours of cleanup. I mean, that makes a huge difference on where our whole family can focus, just by everybody looking for, well, what can I do to contribute? Before I take, what can I do to contribute?
Absolutely.
So pay attention to your loved ones this week. Look at what you can do to feed into who they are and what you dream of your relationship being with them. And start stepping into that with grace, love, respect, and a willingness to show up fully yourself and listen fully to who they are. So we can celebrate how
the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. Namaste.
1, 2, 3. Up with the rising sun, already on the run. Mama says namaste. Life is a tangled mess, and you don't have to stress. Mama says